And we're going to start with Rob Fowler, who is WCBD's chief meteorologist in Charleston, South Carolina. And Rob, this storm is going to be coming your way first. And as our first guest tonight, I'm going to have you help me set up the premise, but I'm going to go ahead and put the forecast cone on the screen for those watching live right now on YouTube, Facebook, and the like. But we could be looking at a tropical storm, Ian, making landfall somewhere along that South Carolina coast on Friday. What type of timing and impacts are you expecting in your area?
Yeah, hey James, we're certainly interested in what it's going to look like on the other side. Of course, earlier this week we weren't quite sure if it was going to make its way back into the Atlantic Ocean, and it looks like that's going to happen. So now we've got to see how strong it is, what it looks like, its structure when it gets into the ocean, and then as it starts to head north, that seems to be where most of the models are kind of trending, and that would put it somewhere between Savannah and Charleston on Friday afternoon, a official landfall. But we know it's a lot more than just a point on a map. We're going to start to see impacts here probably through the day tomorrow in terms of rainfall. We've already seen gusty winds anyway today here in the Charleston area, but they will continue to ramp up through the day tomorrow. And of course, Friday we really feel is going to be our main impact day. That's when we'll see the heaviest rain. That's when we'll see the highest winds. Rainfall totals, we're looking at maybe 6 to 10 inches along our coast. Maybe some pockets even higher than that could reach a foot. And then back away from the coast, which would be closer to Interstate 95, which is generally about 50 miles from the city, heading out west, probably somewhere between 4 and 6 inches of precipitation. Winds, hard to gauge right now, but certainly we're looking for tropical storm force gusts. What we're just hoping not to happen is this does strengthen and give us maybe a low grade category 1 feel to it, if you will. There is a hurricane watch for our area, so that is certainly a possibility. But I think whether it's 70 mile an hour and 75, 65, I think the impacts for us would be the same. We're also dealing with tidal flooding potential, storm surge. We have higher than normal tides because of the recent new moon. So there's a lot of things going on here in Charleston. And if you've been to Charleston, we flood a lot, even just on a good afternoon thunderstorm. So when you throw a lot of rain, several inches at least, on top of a tide, on top of onshore wind flow coming in ahead of the storm and around high pressure, it's going to be a messy Friday here. Even our mayor came on during a live news conference and said, we love our tourists, but this is probably not the time that you want to tour our beautiful city.
Yeah, certainly. And we've seen a lot of that flooding, even just small sprinkles that can be devastating to the Charleston area. We'll look here at the NAM model, just one of the many computer models, right? And we know that there's not a complete agreement on exactly where this landfall could or could not happen. So this one showing the latest model run here where it thinks the landfall could be closer to Wilmington. And we will talk to Eric about that perspective in just a moment, but showing people maybe what the GFS thinks as the storm maybe makes a landfall closer to Hilton Head. So south of Charleston come late on Friday. Let me ask you this, Rob, because you brought this up and this has been on my mind. As we are looking at the forecast cone, I think a lot of people are thinking kind of the same thing here as, oh, okay, if the circulation can get back out over water, which it seems like it would most likely do, what are the odds that it grows from a tropical storm back to a category 1?
I'll be honest with you, James. I mean, anything is possible in this ball game. I mean, last night going into our 11 o'clock news, we were looking at a potentially 140 mile per hour storm, and then overnight, early this morning, now you're looking at on the verge of a Cat 5, 155. So on the front end, certainly miles per hour were added. It was stronger. So on the back end, it's been added. 65 mile per hour wind forecast once it gets into the Atlantic Ocean. So I don't think there's anything at this time, maybe some dry air, some other things that might work against it. It really just depends on how long it's over Florida, what the structure is going to look like, and how much is left over by the time it gets into the ocean. Because our water temperatures maybe not as warm as the Gulf or down in the Caribbean, but we've still got offshore water temperatures in the low to middle 80s. Right here along the coast, a little bit cooler. But I think, right now we're not discounting that fact. And I think the Hurricane Center agrees with that too by putting up the hurricane watch earlier today.
We've got Jared Smith behind the CHSWX account in Charleston, who I know is also watching this closely and has some questions for Rob.
Yeah, I've been thinking about the surge here. I just, Rob, do you see a situation where we're going to avoid that 8.5 foot tide on Friday on top of the rain? Because I'm not seeing it right now.
Yeah, I'm hoping so. And also, the tide tomorrow morning about 11 o'clock is also going to be potentially a moderate to maybe a major flooding situation. So I know those numbers seem so crazy. You're looking back at Matthew and Irma and some of the other high numbers that we've had here, but I'm hoping not, Jared, because
Mhm.
there's a lot of folks that are on pins and needles right now, knowing you've got the rainfall coming, and if you add tidal water to that, then obviously there's going to be some inundation. A storm surge is probably, as you guys know, one of the hardest concepts to explain to viewers because it's changed over the years, the way it's calculated. So it's hard for people to imagine above ground level. What does that mean? They don't know their elevation. So it's one of those things where it's hard to explain, but it can be very devastating to many folks here along the coast who are barely above sea level and have spent a lot of money to go to the beach and live at the beach and enjoy everything the beach has to offer, except when it comes to something like this.
Yeah, and I worry too because it's been a while since we've had a storm like this. We've gone a couple years without a major tropical threat here in the Low Country, and I just, I can't shake the fact of how much has been built since then. Had a lot of people asking me, it's like, I'm new here. Does it flood? And it's like,
Right.
this is brand new construction. I don't know. It's going to be, I think we're going to learn some things and hopefully nothing too bad. Because it was, yeah, I just, these always worry me. They always worry me.
Yeah, me too. I've been here 35 years, and there are so many places that flood now that I don't remember ever flooding. And when you look around, you realize there's a shopping center here and a shopping center here and a subdivision here. And so you've cleared a lot of trees away for
Mhm.
water to evacuate and be soaked up and replaced it with asphalt and cement. So that's probably another discussion, but obviously it's progress, it's development. But unfortunately, there's a bad side to that, and we've seen that with a lot of flooding here in recent years in places, I think, Jared, that didn't usually flood before. Places like Shadow Moss and some other areas, Church Creek. I don't remember.
Mhm.
I've said that landmark quite a bit here in recent years, and I don't ever remember saying it before.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. That's going to be one of the gauges that we'll be keeping a very close eye on too. I mean, that Crosstown Church. I mean, it flooded several times during the,
Yes.
you know, in that stretch between 2015 and 2020, where we had several, tropical and non-tropical events there. Um, Rob, it was interesting looking at that NAM model and couple of the other higher resolution members, and I know that that's not typically try not to use that for tropical cyclones, but what's your read on the potential that this may continue to stay off the ocean even a little bit longer and potentially make landfall north of here?
Yeah, I think that's certainly those cards are on the table. I have seen so many storms and that looked like they were heading our way, and all of a sudden, every single update as it got closer, it started jogging a little more north, a little more north, and a little more north. And back in the mid '90s, not to make light of it, but our battle cry here in South Carolina was "Thank God for North Carolina," because they stick out. They were getting a lot of those storms, the Frans and the Berthas, back in the mid '90s that were missing us, but at one time looked like they were going to hit us. So, yeah, I think those cards are on the table. I'm not discounting that. I think right now we've got to kind of play because the timeline is really crunched here. We've got to play as if we're looking for us the worst case scenario and hoping for the best. And of course, the best for everybody would be for this thing to keep on moving offshore. I don't think that's going to happen. That high pressure is going to kind of pinch it close to the coast. The question is, who gets it and who gets pinched? Is it going to be us? Is it going to be North Carolina, Myrtle Beach, Hilton Head, Savannah, possibly? So we'll have to wait and see. I think I'll be really interested to see tomorrow when it comes off Florida what it looks like, and I think then we'll have a much better idea.
Yeah, absolutely. Rob, where can folks watch you in the Charleston area?
Well, I'm on WCBD TV. We're Channel 2. We do, in fact, I'll leave here and go get ready for our 10 o'clock newscast on the CW. We have a lot of folks saying, I can't stay up till 11. And I say, well, we do at 10 o'clock on the CW. And they're like, oh, you do. So you can watch us there. You can watch us on Channel 2. Rob Storm Team 2 is my Facebook page and try to keep that as updated as I possibly can. And I follow you guys too. So you can kind of navigate through the Carolina Weather Group and find me as well. But I appreciate you guys what you do, informing everybody in the Carolinas. It's just amazing work, and I think people really enjoy getting a chance to see other parts of the Carolinas and how the weather works there.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Rob. Always good to talk to you. Always good to see you. Hopefully next time under better circumstances.